Today's song would have to be that song by Garth Brooks called "The Man That Nobody Knows." Or this is the song that nobody knows. I don't know. I don't know. That album dropped while I was living in Milwaukee, and I can tell you I listen to it just about every day. I think it's called Sevens. I'm not sure what I know right now. But y'all hop inside, take a ride up north with me, and learn how to drive in the snow. Welcome to the Wrecking Yard. I'm Jerry Wayne Longmire, and y'all are presumably still y'all. All are welcome in the Church of Internal Combustion. Said it before, I'm gonna say it every time. If you're new, you might be better off go back and listen to them from the beginning, because then you'll understand some of the characters. Now today's not gonna be too bad, because today we're going back farther than we ever gone before, aside from the very first episode. Today we're going back to 19 years old, about a year out of high school. 1920. It's the year I turned 20. It's that summer and the following. And we're going to cover a lot of ground today, but this is kind of crazy too. For all the stories I have about this time period, it only takes place over about a year. About a year and a couple months change. That's it. But it's a lot that happened. It was a wild year, man. There's a lot of big changes in my life. You know, you were 19, 20. There's a lot of big changes that time. Well, this is how it went for me. That's where I'm going to go today. I'm going to go back to a little pickup I bought in 1982. Dodge D250. It was a 3/4 ton. And this truck's a big part of that story. It became the biggest part of that story on its accident. Before we get too far, let's do our sponsors. Big thank you for bringing us. Big thank you for. Boy, I'm going to screw this up 3 times now. Big thank you to Everyone Racers Podcast for bringing you the Wrecking Yard podcast today. Everyone Racers is a podcast about amateur endurance racing from beginner to advanced, as well as the news, tips, and tricks that go along with our hobby. 4 friends and often teammates, Chrissy Matura, Christopher Abbott, Tim Burr, and Christian Mental Ward, discuss current racing trends and news, as well as occasional interviews and guests who are interesting people with different perspectives on racing and car culture. I told you I've listened to it a great deal already. It's really cool. It's kind of become one of my favorite driving podcasts. I like to listen to podcasts when I drive, especially because I drive a lot at night, and active listening, like listening to information you haven't heard before, helps you stay awake better than listening to music you've listened to a million times before. It's about the way it makes your brain waves work. I read an article full of science about it. I don't remember any of the science. I just know it works for me. Never thought I'd be a dude listening to talk radio, but it keeps you awake, which is wild to me. Could have never convinced me of that when I was a young person, but it does. So that's become one of my go-tos when I drive, is I like to listen to these guys tell stories about the racetrack and all the stuff they're doing, and I really enjoy it. So you should if you got any interest in amateur endurance racing or really any kind of racing, you ought to go give it a check. Let's do it. See what you think. And I'll put the link in the chat, and of course put the link in the comments for everybody to go listen to them on Spotify. I think probably the best place. And then let's tackle some comments from last week, and then I got some cool news to share with y'all, and this has been a fun week. So first off, let's go to our first comment. So when I do these comments, what I do is the day before I record, I just sort of scan through and read all the comments, and then I just pick a few out that kind of make me laugh, or I think that I could respond to, or something like that. And but then I don't think nothing else about them until I look at them right here with y'all. And God, I love that picture. Sorry, it's a picture of me and my wife. I like it. This message, okay, this first comment is from @ButterRecruit. Well, that's a delightful name. Been enjoying all these podcasts. I listen to them on my way to work every time they're uploaded. I enjoy the stories so much. I enjoy listening to people who are older to me because I always see it as a learning opportunity and life advice. I could sit down with older people and listen to stories all day. A nice cold beer, some hot dogs, and hamburgers, always a great time. I'm really glad I stumbled across your channel and videos. Man, thank you. It's a wonderful comment and compliment. And I can't even be mad that you called me old like 5 times in that comment, because it was all very complimentary. But damn, you used the word older a lot there. But thank you. That's cool, man. I'm glad you're enjoying it. And if you're a young person, I can teach you something, or at least what not to do, then, man, I've said this. If I can convince one guy not to get screwed at work, or one guy not to tear his body up chasing a bag, then I've done something good. All right, here we go. Next one. This is from @ForestDome1858. The scum of the earth / parking lot quote is by none other than Paul Harvey. Man, Lieutenant Tillman snowed me. I thought he made that shit up. That was the first time I'd ever heard that. But it doesn't surprise me. It comes from Paul Harvey, who's a very insightful voice. And that doesn't surprise me at all. But thanks for letting me know. If I ever see Lieutenant Tillman again, I'll be like, you plagiaristic son of a 50. All right, @JS-JF7GV. I don't think that's an acronym. You got to be the only dude I know with 17th century poetry in his shop. Well, be that as it may, there's a reason that book's there. I told y'all most of these things in here you notice we got some changes today in the shop too. But I told you, all these things mean something. They're all very important. From the curl, everything here means something. There's lots of little Easter eggs. This book, Paradise Lost by John Milton. Of course, if you know anything about the book, you know all the themes it deals with, and you can understand why it'd be important to somebody like me. Not only have I read it, I've read a lot of scholar texts that go along with it. Read a lot of interpretative material that goes with it. But that particular book belonged to Rachel's Uncle Jerry. My kids called him Great Jerry, which of course he loved. But he was her dad's brother. And he was just a cool guy, man. I don't know if I've told y'all much about Uncle Jerry, but Uncle Jerry was just bigger than life, with a big mustache and facial hair. And you see why me and Jerry got along? Just, he loved to read, and he loved to talk about a vast array of subjects, from cars to just whatever. It didn't matter. It's a 17th century poetry. I enjoyed every bit of time I got to spend with Jerry. And I inherited a lot of tools and a lot of things from Jerry. And yeah, so that's why that book's there. The book's there because that book was Jerry's, and I found it out here in the shop with some of his stuff, and I decided it needed to stay. I feel like he's here with me, like he's enjoying the fact this was his space at one point. And now I'm using his space to do some other creative stuff. And he was also a bit of a photographer, so I use a lot of his tripods and stuff. He had these really cool tripods and gear from the 70s, and a lot of it has broken and failed since I started using it because it's old as piss. But yeah, it makes me feel like Great Jerry's right there. Great Jerry's just hovering over my shoulder. Like, give him hell, kid, because he's that kind of dude. And my wife, of course, loved him, and I loved him, and our children loved him. So, and we miss him a great deal. We lost him the year after we lost Rachel's dad. The year to the date, I think he came very close to passing away on the same day. Same thing. Went to have a heart surgery. They nicked something, and he bled out. And we lost him. Good dude, though. Great Jerry. Jerry Carr. Gerald Carr. Kind of funny, Rachel's grandma always called me JW. So when I was a kid, I didn't want to be Jerry Wayne. I wanted everybody to call me JW. And one year when I was starting at a new school, and I met my new teachers, and they called me Jerry, and I said, no, I go by JW. And then my teacher's like, oh, okay, and they started calling me JW, and I was real excited. And then they had the first parent-teacher conference, and my mom was like, no, that's Jerry Wayne. And they never called me JW again. I was so mad at my mama. But Rachel's grandma, because she already had a Jerry, she always called me JW, and I just loved that. I loved the way she said JW. I loved the way she said it to me. And it just made me feel like I was my own person in her standing. She always made me feel like part of the family, and I had my own spot. I was JW. JW, your work is so neat. She was just a sweetheart, regal woman that I just adored and loved. And she called me JW. And I always just thought that was cool. It's like JR, make it feel cool, you know. Trying to angle this air conditioner so it blow up my leg. Woo. Anyway, you know some other changes about the shop. Ta-da! Ain't that beautiful? My sweet wife, we celebrated 16 years being married. We've been together probably about 18 and a half years, but been married 16 years. We celebrated that last night. That was our 16-year wedding anniversary. And we howled at the moon, buddy. We did. We got the first cold front in Houston we've had in like 17 years. Came through and cooled everything down last night. And if you live in Houston, Texas, you weren't out howling at the moon last night, that's on you. You missed out. We get like 3.5 days of fall here, and you got to take them when they show up. And we did, boy. We got out there, we howled at the moon. I had me some Evan Williams. Woo, son. Had us a good old time. If you follow me on Facebook, you probably already know that. But she surprised me with this gift. She got me this canvas of the art me and her came up with for the podcast. Y'all don't understand. I had talked about and thought about this idea a long time before I did it, before I put myself out there and made myself vulnerable like this. It's a lot. I'm glad you guys enjoy it, but it is a lot. It's a lot. I put myself out here in this. And she had that made for me, and I just couldn't wait to come set it up out here in the shop. And I just couldn't be more tickled about it. And of course, I'll take it inside when I'm not using it for filming so the sun doesn't damage it. And then we moved Papa's thermometer over here so it's still featured prominently. Gotta give Papa his dues. Papa Longmire. It was a good night. It's been a good week. Thursday, was it Thursday? I drove out to see a really good friend of mine. And this buddy of mine, I'm not going to put his business on the street because he has a job in the military that requires a lot of keeping his mouth shut all the time. He's one of them kinds of guys that has one of those kinds of jobs. And he's been doing what he does for a long time, and he's real good at it, and but he's also real good at separating that from his life too. And I hadn't got to see him about 2 years. Last time we saw each other was in Nashville, and we went down to Printer's Alley, and we pitched a bitch that night. We really got it down in Printer's Alley. And Nashville's fun for me because I get recognized a lot in Nashville, and people are buying me drinks, and I sure have trouble saying no to a free drink. That's one of my triggers. And the drinks you get in Nashville are pretty good because you're getting Uncle Nearest, and you're getting some good whiskeys down there, down there in Printer's Alley. You get some good stuff. So we tied one on in Printer's Alley, but this is one of the coolest moves anybody's ever done. I want to brag on my buddy. That night we were all lit up in Printer's Alley, and when I've had enough, I'm ready to go back to the hotel. I don't want to ride with somebody else who's been drinking. Because a lot of times I'll go out and do stuff with people, but if they start getting drunk and I'm getting a little lit, then I'm going to get me an Uber or cab, and I'm going to do the old Irish goodbye. You just ain't never going to, you'll get a text message from me the next day, made it home safe, whatever, because I'll just do the little Irish exit. That's what I like to do. This guy's my boy, we're tight. But this is one of the coolest moves anybody's ever done to me is I was in the bathroom, I was like, I got to go home. I was in the bathroom, some little bar down in Printer's Alley, and I was like, I've had enough. I'm ready to get back to my hotel, my bed. Need something to hang on to before the room starts spinning, whatever. So I went ahead and called my Uber, and then I walked out there, and I was like, well, I'm not going to do the Irish exit on my boy. So I went up and talked to him and said, hey, brother, I got to get out of here. And he got real serious. We were all, having a good time. But he got real serious. He grabbed me. He goes, okay, I need you to do me a favor. He goes, and I don't mind paying for it or whatever, but I need you to call an Uber because I've had too much to drink and I don't feel comfortable driving you and being responsible for your safety. And I just hugged this son of a 50 because, my God, you know how much pressure that takes off? Thank you. Yes. I hugged him. I go, I already called an Uber, but I love you for that, man. Because too many times you get around people like that, and they're like, no, it's fine, I'll drive you. And it's a bad situation to be in. And you're not trying to piss anybody off or hurt anybody's feelings. Everybody wants to hang out and have a good time. I get it. But it was just a cool move. It was a cool way to approach that. And just give you a little insight in this dude's character. He's a veteran. He's a good dude. We just happened to be in Reagan, Texas this week, doing some work on his gal's house. And he reached out to me, and I said, man, if I can get time free, I'm going to drive out there. And so that's what I did. Thursday, I got up, and I drove out to Reagan, Texas, and I hung out with my buddy all day. We went and ate a great steak dinner, and I met his family, and just had a fantastic time. Sometimes it's just nice to just hang out with people that don't want nothing from you, but it's a rarity. And it was great. It was great just to hang out with my buddy and his family. Of course, see my buddy. He's just come back from kind of a long deployment. Been overseas for a while. And that work's dangerous. You never know if you got friends that go do that kind of work. You never know when's the last time you're going to get to hang out with them, because there's dangers involved. All kinds of stuff happens once you leave this country. Traveling overseas can be dangerous, period. So we had us time. We had us a good time. We had a couple shiners and ate a big old steak. He treated me to a big old steak dinner, which was awfully nice of him, and hung out with his family. Just had a great time. And then we talked about what's going on. There's a lot of things happening right now. I'm on this, I'll tell you how I explained it to Jody. I was like, man, I'm right on this, it's like being on a roller coaster. And you get up to the top, and you're waiting to start the fun part. And there's the anxiety, and there's all this is about to happen. And you're just waiting on that fun part. And I feel like I've been on top of that roller coaster for about 1.5 years, 2 years now. Because I got all these little irons in the fire. All this stuff I'm constantly working on. Stuff I'm creating for other people. Stuff I'm writing. Stuff I'm doing. People I'm trying to get connected to. People's radar I'm trying to get on. It's constant work. Put all these that's what this business is. A lot of businesses. You put all these little irons in the fire. And you're heating them up, and you're going to screw half of them up, or they just ain't going to be worth the flip to begin with. Every once in a while, that one iron's worth a damn. That's what I told Joe. I was like, I swear it is, but we just got finished clicking. There's stuff coming down the pipe, and I'm super excited about it. This podcast has opened me up to some opportunities that I didn't know were available to me, but this next year could be really, really exciting. And one of the first things that popped up is I've gotten asked to be a celebrity guest judge on the Hot Wheels Legends Tour as they come to Houston in the coming week. And I'm over the moon about that. My little kid inside me is just having a ball. I've been in the Hot Wheels bin, digging out my favorite Hot Wheels to carry in my pockets to go. Hot Wheels were big. I told y'all, me and Uncle Bobby collected Hot Wheels together. This just all goes back. All these connections keep happening. Yes, I'm a comic. Yes, I'm doing this. Yes, I'm doing this. And all these things just keep clack, 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 and the circle keeps getting tighter. And it's exciting. It's full of anxiety too, but it's exciting. I try not to let myself daydream too much, but it's hard not to with some of these opportunities I've been being told about lately and been being included in lately. It's hard not to daydream. You can't put too much expectations on these things, because sometimes that's bad energy to put on stuff. But I was coming home from Reagan, Texas, from seeing my buddy, and I let myself daydream a little bit. I let myself daydream about some of these opportunities panning out. What if I get to go to SEMA this year and maybe speak at SEMA or do some entertaining at SEMA? What if I get to meet some of my favorite automotive icons? What if I get to tell my stories in a way that they get distributed to a much broader audience? I let myself daydream. I was in my Mazda. Oh yeah, I love that little car, a little Mazda 3. It's a 2012 Mazda 3, 6-speed. Got a moonroof. I picked it up 75,000 miles for a little bit of nothing. The car's just clean as a whistle. I got to do struts on it. It's got a strut thumping. It's got a Mazda thump. Got to do a strut on it. But other than that, little car just runs like a top. And it ain't fast, but it's zippy. It's zoom zoom, whatever Mazda's thing was. But I like driving that 6-speed. Makes you feel like you're connected to the car. You're doing something. It's great. It's a great road car for going across, going to gigs and stuff. I have to put fuel in it so little that I keep forgetting how to open the fuel door. I put $30 in there and I drive 350 miles. You know, it's wild. It's been a long time. I've had trucks and big vehicles for so long, for decades now. This is the first small car I've had, I think, since that Datsun. And I am just having the time of my life driving. And I also like seeing people's face when my big ass climbs out of that Mazda 3. The kid at the oil change place literally went, damn, when I got out. I go, yeah, I know, right? He goes, don't that hurt your knees? I was like, believe it or not, it don't. It's actually a really comfortable car to drive. But I was whipping back from Reagan, Texas. It's Highway 6. It's dark. It's just dark as, well, night. It's dark as night out there. It's about midnight, maybe 11:30. Ain't no lights on that part of Highway 6. You're out in the boonies. There's a little strip between, basically Marlin and College Station. There just ain't much. Bryan and all that. There ain't much. It's just a little old 2-lane on each side highway at the night. And it felt like I had the whole highway to myself. And I was whipping along about 90 miles an hour. What did Charlie Daniels say? Toking and digging on the radio. But I wasn't digging. I turned the radio off. I was just kind of letting myself be alone with my own thoughts, which is dangerous. I get carried away. And I'm just sort of daydreaming, piloting this car through the darkness. And I see over the top of the hill, I see a headlight. And I thought it was a motorbike at first, but it's kind of erratic. It's coming up behind me real fast. But it's a lot of swerving, a lot of sweeving is what it looks like. It's sweeving. It's erratic, and I realize as it gets closer, it's a car. Naturally, I slowed down a little bit and moved over to the right. I don't want to get in an accident with some drunk, I don't need to be first. Go on, hot shot. You got this. I think I slowed down to about 80 miles an hour. Judging by how fast they passed me and whipped around me, I think they were running closer to 90. Good 10, 15 miles faster than me. And in the quick glance I got when they come flying by and what I saw in my rear view mirror before they approached me, I noticed it was about a 2011 Ford Taurus. And it was beat to hell, had whiskey dents all up and down it, and had trim flapping off in about 3 different places, waving at you like, watch out! Watch out! And in the light, when they went by me, I noticed it looked like a man and a woman arguing. There was arms waving wildly, and I couldn't see very much of it. Maybe some marital discord. Maybe they were arguing about who had the bag last, or how much was left in the bag. I can only speculate. They were still all over the road, but they disappeared over the next hill off into the darkness that is Central Texas in the middle of the night. Any country highway. I didn't think much more about it other than hope I don't see a wreck ahead of me. Shortly, just a few minutes later, crest the hill behind me, another pair of headlights. They ain't weaving. These headlights are on a mission. They're moving fast. You can tell sometimes just by how headlights move in the dark if it's a cop. And I knew that was Law. I knew it was Johnny Law. I could just tell. There was no erratic movements. There was just a pair of headlights charging into the night. Looked like an SUV. And sure enough, here comes his Texas State Trooper. I seen that cowboy hat when he went by. And at this point, I'm running 90 again, and he passed me like I didn't matter. But I knew he wasn't coming for me. I knew, because he wasn't in my lane. He wasn't in the right lane. He was on a mission. Somebody done called in on these folks. He disappears off into the dark. I said, well, the universe is doing what the universe is going to do. I crest that hill, and right at the bottom of that hill, there's that state trooper, and he's got somebody pulled over, and his lights are lit up. As I get a little closer, I realize it's that same old beat-to-death Ford Taurus. And the officer's already out of he's up at the window. I slowed down as customary, moved over, kept on chugging to my destination, but as I looked in my rear view mirror and I seen that one single headlight staring at me, I just couldn't help but think, him and Cinderella couldn't put it all together. One headlight. Like I said, it's been a good week. Week of experiences. So I'm excited about things to come. Let's just jump off into it here. So when I was about 19 years old, I was living in Houston, Texas at the time. I'd been living in Kilgore. I went up to Kilgore for a little bit right after high school. I graduated in 96 from A-Leaf Elsick High School in A-Leaf, Texas. I moved back to Kilgore after graduation, and then ended up coming back here, and I ended up getting a job at, it used to be called Texas Oil and Gas. And then it changed its name to Global Compression. It was over on Boone Road. And I got a job as a dimensional inspector over there, working for my friend Colin's dad. His dad's name was Jim Fitzgerald. He was an old ex-state trooper quality control man, and he was tough as nails. Old Jim Fitzgerald, boy. He looked a little bit like Frankenstein because he had crashed an airplane one time and broke his face all up. He was a terrifying man. Always had a pistol on him. He's an old state trooper. He's a tough old bird, you know. I had some good adventures with Jim. I enjoyed working for Jim, but it was scary at times, but I learned a lot from Jim. One of the funniest things I remember working for Jim one time is my little office was connected to his office, and he said, phone rang. He picked up the phone and answered it. And then he put the phone on his shoulder, and he looked over at me. He said, Jerry, I got to take a phone call. Can you make me a circle? I said, hell yeah, I'll make you a circle. And so I started looking for a protractor, and looking for some paper, and I found me some notebook paper, digging out. And I looked around. I found a little can on my desk I was going to use to make a circle. He didn't tell me how big he wanted the circle to make. I was going to make this man a circle because he paid me good, and I would do whatever he told me to do. And he goes, Jerry, what the hell are you doing? I need you to take a walk. I go, oh, you said make you a circle, and I was over here making, and he started laughing so hard. He goes, I'm going to have to call you back. He goes, son, if I say make a circle, that means I need you to take a lap so I can talk about sensitive business. Now get your ass out of this office. Oh, Jim, what's up, fellas? When I was working there, I had a little 93 LX Mustang. It was one my dad bought, and then he moved on to something else, so I was buying the car from him and was driving this little car. Nothing special. But I was making pretty good money at this place. I was getting a good fat paycheck every week, and I was getting paid well for the first time ever. And I started looking for an extra project. all my friends had hot rods, and I just had this old, it was just bone stock Mustang, and I didn't want to do nothing to it. I was making payments on it. Didn't want to screw it up, script a warranty, anything like that. So I said, I'm going to find me a project one of these nights. And there's a little road over on the edge of A-Leaf, kind of on West Houston over there. It's called Murphy Road. Murphy Road, I don't know what it's like yet. I hadn't been over there in eons, but my brother and his family lived kind of close to that. And you go down Murphy Road, and there was all kind of little junkyards and body collision places and little car lots and stuff. Little dive bars. It was a good place to get in trouble. Hang out. Drink, kind of guys did the kind of work we did. I was too young to go to bars yet, but things are different then. So I've been driving by this one place a couple weeks, and I'd see he had this old, the only color I can describe it is shit brown. It was a shit brown 82 Dodge D250. Just big old mean looking pickup. It was a mean looking son of 50. Sitting out there, had a nice chrome grill on it. And it was just clean old pickup. Had some decent little mud grips on it and everything. Just looked like it might be fun for screwing around in or whatever. And I kept seeing this truck. I'd drive by and see this truck. I'd think about it a little bit. And never stopped in and asked about it. And one afternoon, actually, I was driving by there. And I noticed the whole front end of this truck was trashed. So the grill was gone. The heater core was missing, bashed in. Left front fender was gone, was just trashed. Door was crumpled. Truck had clearly been in some sort of accident, I don't know what possessed me to pull in there, but I pulled in there. I talked to the old boy that worked there. He said, yeah, man, I just always loved that truck. But you remember what we were talking about last week where, sometimes that one thing happens and makes you just not interested in the vehicle anymore? Well, my mouse stopped working. His one thing happened and he wasn't interested in that Dodge anymore. He'd had a lot too much beer joint, Murphy Road one night, cratered the front end of the Dodge. Told me he hit a set of poles in a gas station. That's why it did so much damage, concrete poles. He started stripping it down, then just decided to hell with it. I said, man, what's your take for it? He said, well, the thing drives good. It's got a 360 V8, which is one of my favorite of the Chrysler V8s. It's what came in the little red Express, little 5.9, I think. Is that it? 5.9, yeah. Got that little small block 360, not big block 360 FE like what I had in my first truck. Feel some kinship to it. I said, well, man, what'd you take for it? And he ended up selling me that truck for about $450. And I went and got Joey. Me and Joey ran over to Walmart, and I bought a big old battery-operated spotlight. And I taped it up where that left headlight should have been. That was missing. That part of the heater core was missing. I duct taped it in there, and we drove it back to my parents' house that night. All the way Murphy Road, all the way out West Park, A-Leaf, Clodine area. A little bit of a drive, looking out for Johnny Law and what. Couldn't hardly get the driver door open. Pulled it up. My mom was so pissed. Why'd you bring this here? Park that in the street. Don't you park that in my driveway. Won't people think that's ours? She didn't like to be reminded we grew up in a wrecking yard. She wasn't wrecking yard centric as I was. She didn't enjoy her experiences in the wrecking yard. Some people do, some people don't. She's bad. Don't put that thing in my driveway. Don't you park that piece of shit in my driveway. I Come on, man. What you talking about, Mama? Let me park it in the driveway. No, I don't want you to put that thing in my driveway. So I didn't. I didn't put it in her driveway at night. But then the next day, she was like, "Get that thing out of the street in front of the house, put it in the driveway, put the tarp over." I guess it looked worse sitting out in the street. It was pretty rough looking. I immediately that weekend I go to the junkyard. I start hunting parts for it. Me and Joey. We hit a couple. We hit Junkyard. There used to be a real good one. It was called Wallaceville. It was over off 60 and old Pick Apart before it became LKQ and all that. And we're gonna go up there and check out LKQ and see if they had some parts for it. They didn't have everything I needed. What LKQ did have was they had a beige driver door that was in really good shape. And I bought that beige driver door. And then when I got over to, there used to be a little junkyard in Galveston over off Harborside. Kind of on the back side of the island. And Harborside had some cool stuff for being so close to the ocean. They had some good parts. And me and Joey drove down this junkyard in Harborside. Little pickup he had at the time. And we got me a heater core. And a fender, and the fender was actually the doo-doo brown color that my truck was, which was great. The heater core was red. Couldn't find a grill, but I wasn't worried about that. But I did find all the headlight mounting pieces that go on the heater core. Not the heater core. What am I calling it? Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Part behind the grill. So I find all that stuff. Get a new bumper. Oh no, I didn't get the bumper for it. I decided not to buy the bumper. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with the front end. So I decided not to get the bumper. But get all the other pieces I need, basically put the truck back together. Then I spend that whole weekend, me and Joey spend that whole weekend with my dad in the driveway, putting that old Dodge back together and getting it all looking like it's supposed to. My mom ain't gonna have that thing tore up sitting in her driveway very long. I still live with my parents at the time. And boy, we get that thing together and I get it registered and inspected. And I can't wait to start driving it. Because the little Mustang's okay, but it's just a little, I was just kind of longing for a truck again. I hadn't had a little pickup in a while, so you got something new you got to put together. And I like the way that 360 sound, boy. You mash that gas, that big old 3/4 ton truck was just shit and get, son. It was a good truck. It was a fun truck to drive. I used to tell people the brakes were kind of like advice. You hit the brakes and they'd start warning the rest of the truck, hey, we should slow down. We should do something. They weren't great. They weren't great brakes. But it was a good little truck. It was fun to drive. That 360 growl, I'd get it, son. Started driving it to work. Of course, everybody's making fun of it because I had a beige door, no grill. And a buddy of mine was an x-ray hand, and I was hanging out with him and his wife every once in a while. They were a couple named Rusty and Nancy Simmons. Rusty had been a biker and everything else, but he was a good old dude. He was a hell of an x-ray hand. They were a husband and wife team, did x-ray, did gamma ray inspection together. They'd come out and they'd x-ray stuff for us at Global Compression. And I was really interested in what they were doing because they got to go to a different place every day. They didn't have to stay in the same shop every day. That's where I run into problems. Where I got to do the same thing every day, I run into problems, especially when I was younger. I didn't like that. I'd get bored. So I didn't last in the auto parts business. So I didn't last in a lot of jobs, factory jobs and stuff where I had to just be in one place all the time. I don't know what happens to me, but I don't like that. I sure liked what Rusty and Nancy were doing. I was learning a lot about gamma ray inspection. Seemed like a cool job to me. You get to work with radiation and go all over the place and x-ray pressure vessels and interesting stuff. It's not a job any dummy can do. You kind of got to have some snap about you to do it. I like things that are challenging like that. I always did. And it's in quality control, which is something I already know something about. I grew up in it, and I've been working in it for a little while. I'm going back and forth between driving the Mustang and driving the Dodge. But I decided I really want to try my hand at what Rusty and Nancy are doing. And right about that time, they have a big fire out at Global Compression. A big old warehouse burns down at Global Compression, and it's a warehouse that has our office in it. I don't remember how the fire started, but I think it had something to do with them stacking a bunch of boxes of paper around a hot water heater. Nobody got hurt. It was a big old fire. Burned the whole warehouse out. And a few days later, they came and told me, they said, hey, we're going to scale back the operation until we get all this thing. We don't need an extra helper. We don't need an extra quality control guy right now. So we're going to let you go. I was a new man on the totem pole. And that's okay, because I'd already talked to Rusty and Nancy, and they told me some places to go apply over in Pasadena if I wanted to go be a helper, learn how to do gamma ray inspection, radiography. So I was like, cool. Talked to my dad about it. My dad said, I got a friend that works for a really good company that does it called Longview Inspection. They started in Longview, Texas. And they're a real big radiography shop, ultrasonic shop, and be a good place for you to get an education. So I'm all for it. So I drive over there one day in that old beat up Dodge, and I interview in Pasadena. They're right off 225 kind of. And they hire me, tell me when to come to work. And of course now I realize I can't drive back and forth from A-Leaf to I mean I could, but it's not going to be cost effective. Especially what kind of work hours you're going to work as a radiographer. So I found me an apartment over there in Pasadena, Texas. Right off Red Bluff Road. The Palms Apartments. God, it was a shithole. $300 a month, little efficiency apartment. And I decided to give up the Mustang because I was worried I wasn't going to be able to keep the payments up on it. And I really wasn't that interested in it anymore. And there was another family member that wanted to buy the Mustang, so we sold it to them. I think it was my grandmother at the time. I don't remember. Somebody else wanted to buy the Mustang. We sold the Mustang to them, and I just started driving my little beat to hell Dodge pickup. But I liked that truck, you know. It was a good old truck. Before I got moved into that apartment, though, one day, I'll tell you this, one day I was driving back to my parents' house in A-Leaf from work. I'd been over there taking my radiation safety classes that one day I was going to end up teaching. I've been over there taking my classes. And my teacher wasn't near as funny or good as I am. Those classes were boring as shit. I went and did my 40 hours of radiation safety, and was driving home from Pasadena one night. Truck started running like crap. Couldn't figure it out, saved my life. Never had a vehicle do what this truck was doing. It was like the engine was jumping around in the engine bay and it had no power. I limped it home, got it up in the driveway. Talked to my dad. My dad was sitting in the living room, told him what it's doing. He said, oh, it's jump time. Chrysler's bad about jump time. It's jump time. He's a Mopar man. He said, we'll take a look at it in the morning, but I'm just sure it's jump time. Sounds like it's jump time. All right, what's that mean, Dad? Well, we got to do timing change. Well, it's not too bad on that truck. Hell, it didn't have no grill. It's pretty easy to tear the front of the motor off. So, next morning, me and Dad go out there and start messing with it. We take the timing cover off front of it. I cranked it up for him. He's under the hood, jacking with it, and it's jerking, jiving, jumping all over the engine. He's like, yep, I'm just sure of it. This thing's jump time. I said, all right. Well, I trust you, Dad. You know what you're doing. So go over to the AutoZone, and I buy me a timing chain and a set of gears, you know, timing chain sprockets, all that good stuff, gaskets. Tear the front of the engine down. Spend a whole day, it's a weekend, spend a whole Saturday changing that timing chain out on that 360. I had plans that night. I was going to go out with some friends. I was trying, you know, you're trying to get it done. I was trying to get it done. Well, I got it all put back together. Fired that son 50 up, and guess what? It's still jump time somehow. It's still, I mean, it's just lurching in the engine bay every time you try to rev it. So my dad grabs hold, he loosens the distributor up, grabs hold of the distributor, starts turning the distributor a little bit, trying to see if maybe it needs to be advanced or what's going on with it. He's trying to diagnose what the problem is. But he turns the distributor this way just a little bit and it stops doing it altogether. And he goes, oh, it's just a timing problem. I'll get my timing light, we'll shoot the timing on it again. It's just a timing problem. It's too advanced for something. As he's walking away to get his timing light, it starts doing it again. So we go get, he gets the timing light, comes back, we shoot the timing. It's dead, the timing's dead on balls. It's still, well, maybe, I just can't, well, I don't know what the hell's going on. So we take the distributor apart and I go buy all new parts, rebuild the inside of the distributor. We don't use all, well, I just bought a cap and a rotor, new spark plug. He thought maybe I had a burn wire or something. We recheck all the wires, run all the wires, change all the plugs, fire it up again. This is going to fix it. Now my dad's mad enough to start throwing shit. He's yelling. He's pissed. What the hell? This is going to blast it. Well, he said everything about Mopar you could say. Damn Dodge piece of shit. He's hot. And I said, well, Dad, maybe we just, maybe I need to take it to the mechanic shop. Boy, he about lost his mind. You ain't got money for that. I ain't got money for that. We're going to figure this problem out. So we give it up that night. I go run around with some friends. They pick me up. I go run around with some friends, come back next morning. We get out there and we mess with this thing all day Sunday. And when I tell you we rebuilt the carburetor, AFB on it, which never was really worth it. AFBs are pretty good. I like them better than a Quadrajet myself. And I've run a lot of AFBs on stuff in my life. I'm on Carter, but easy to rebuild carburetor. There's not a lot of magic to it. We rebuild that AFB, clean the intake, rerun the plug wires again. I'll say we're double checking everything. And we done messed with this thing all weekend. We done fought with it all weekend. It's even time Sunday. Fire it up. Oh, my dad's hollering. He's hot. I'm hot. Damn it, I gotta go to work in the morning. How the hell am I gonna get to Pasadena? And my dad was messing with the distributor and he let his hand drop. And when his hand dropped, he hit the bundle of wires going into the distributor. And when his hand hit the bundle of wires, the truck stopped running funny. Just humming like a sewing machine. And he goes, are you shitting me? He tears that cap off the distributor, tears down there. It's got a little condenser down there in that distributor. He grabs hold of that wire going in that condenser and he just pulls it out. That little wire and the condenser and the distributor come loose. As the engine was idling, it was breaking contact. And then as the engine got to jumping worse, it was doing it worse and worse and worse. So went and bought a $6 condenser to put in the distributor. And boy, old truck just run like a pro that night. We got it running about 8 o'clock that night. And then he had to holler some more because we done spent all weekend. I done spent $200 or $300 rebuilding half the engine and carburetor and everything else to find out it was a $6 part in the distributor. But at least everything else is new. I got up and drove it off to Pasadena next morning. I ended up moving into my apartment very shortly after that. Still didn't have no grill on the truck, but I went over to Rusty, and Rusty hollers at me one day. He said, man, I can't wait for you to come see this daggum truck I just bought my son. He had an older teenage son getting ready to start driving. He wanted a project to work on with him. And I can't remember what the military's designation for him was, but for a period of time, a lot of you are probably familiar with the Cuck V Blazers that the military had built for them. At one point, the military was using Dodge trucks, and I forgot what they called. They had some little acronym for them, whatever. But they were basically using these Dodge trucks, about the same year model as mine, a little older. And he had bought one of these old military surplus Dodge trucks for a little bit of nothing. One of the 24-volt wiring system, and there's a lot of crap you got to do. Them old military trucks make them worth a damn, but he was game for it. Him and his son were going to tackle it. But on the front of this thing, it had this big go to hell brush guard that looked like somebody made it on their back porch, but it was one of the military brush guards that come off his truck. And he was just bitching about that thing. He said, I can't wait to take that ugly piece of shit off. I said, Rusty, what you want for it? He said, boy, I ain't thinking about it. Probably fit your truck, protect your radiator. I said, yeah, I like that thing. That's just kind of the mean, ugly Mad Max look I like. I like that thing. How much you want for it? Rusty said, if you help my son take it off that truck, you can have it. And you can even use my tools, put it on your truck. So, boy, we stripped off his truck. We put it on my truck. Rusty did a little welding on it. I had my big go-to-hell grill guard on there. I didn't care about having a grill no more. My truck looked like something straight out of Mad Max. And I had a little bigger tires on the back, so I had that hammered stance I like. Boy, it's mean. It's ugly. 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 You ever seen something so ugly as beautiful? It's ugly beautiful, baby. Mad Max machine. I liked the way that truck looked. It was raunchy. Sorry. Just checking on my recording device here. It was ugly. One night, and that was what I drove around to. That's why I drove back and forth with my little X-ray. And I was learning radiography at the time. I was a helper. I was a guy carrying the camera, getting taught how to set up the shots. I worked with some good hands back then. I worked under a man named Eddie Jacobs from Louisiana. Eddie Jacobs was a pretty good old boy. I really enjoyed working under him. He yelled a lot, but I like yell guys. I grew up working under him. Another old guy at that shop was a guy named Woody. I can't remember what Woody's last name was. Woody was an old cowboy from maybe Santa Fe, Texas. Maybe that place, I can't remember the name of that town where Nolan Ryan's from. Alvin. I think maybe he's from, had a farm or something out there in Alvin, Pearland, Santa Fe, somewhere down there. Woody was an old cowboy. I liked old Woody. Woody looked out for me. He's a good dude. The problem was all my friends were still in Houston, so at night I wanted to go out and have a good time after I got off work. I'd drive over to Houston to old Dodge, burn some gas, go hang out with my friends. Ooh, I had an attitude on me too. I thought I was tough. I was doing this tough job, and I thought somehow I'd accidentally gotten tough. I thought I was a bad dude. One of the funny stories I remember one night is me and my brother Joey, we were leaving the Slick Willies on Hayes Road. We'd had a little bit to drink. We could get in the Slick Willies, nobody carded us. We'd go over there and shoot pool, sneak us a couple drinks, have a good time. When we left Slick Willies, we decided to stop at the McDonald's over there at Derry Ashford and Westheimer Road, real late at night. Go to get in line, get me some McDonald's. There's a young black lady in line in front of me, kid behind the register. And this dude comes in, young black dude, sagging his pants, so the style at the time. Got his jacket pulled back, he comes in there, he starts trying to hit on this girl, but she ain't having it, she don't want no part of it. But he's steady trying to hit on this girl while she's trying to order her food. She's just blowing him off, like, I ain't got time for you. I ain't got time for you. She gets her order done. She goes to walk off. He steps in front of me in line. I said, hey, man, you wasn't in line. You was trying to hit on that girl. Didn't want nothing to do with you. You need to get back in line behind my brother. It's my turn. And he turned around. And he, like, reached down like he's going to reach down and up under his shirt. He put his hand up under his shirt. He goes, oh, it's like that, huh? Now, when he said, oh, it's like that, he had a buddy that was standing outside the door still trying to holler at this girl. When he said, oh, it's like that, I heard a door close over here. I look over my shoulder. My brother done left. My brother don't like guns. He don't like confrontation. He don't like violence. Joey said, Dee Dee Mao, bailed. It's probably assuming I would be smart to do the same thing, but I didn't. I was mad. I wanted my hamburger. I said, you know you're wrong, dude. Get your ass back in line. It's my turn. You ain't gonna cut in front of me. I don't care what you've got underneath your shirt. And he said, I ain't got time for this. I said, I got all the time in the world. And then he reached again like he was about to reach up under his shirt. When he reached again, his buddy come in there and started reaching like he was going to reach up under his shirt. And all of a sudden the door opened again over here. Here comes Joey coming back. I don't know what Joey did. Does Joey got a gun? I don't know. Joey comes back in the restaurant. Now he's posted up beside me again. I said, boy, I got all the time in the world for this. Let's do it. Thought I was tough. And the manager's like, I already called the law. All y'all need to get the hell out of here. Well, I didn't want no problems with the law. As soon as the manager said he called the law, oh boy, here, he backed out talking crap the whole time. I had a plan. I was going to punch him in the arm he was reaching up under his shirt with and see if I couldn't break his arm. I thought I was Remo Williams or something. Stupidity is what it is. He leaves. Me and Joey leave. I said, Joey, why'd you come back in the restaurant? He said, well, he says, one thing if your mouth's going to get you shot on your own fault. But he said, it's a whole nother thing if him and his buddy both are going to shoot you. I ain't going to have that. He wasn't going to let them both get me. Those were some good times, man. Those, me and Joey were together all the time. We'd go fishing. We'd run around. One night we ran over there to, this is funny, we ran over to Pasadena one night, get something out of my apartment, some clothes or something. I was going to go hang out the weekend in Houston. We can go run around, chase girls and such. Went over to get some stuff out of my apartment. Well, that night they had an explosion at the Shell refinery on 225. A lightning strike hit a storage tank. Big explosion, huge fire going on. There's camera crews everywhere, news crews out there. And they were evacuating part of the area right there along 225. Well, I just happened to be there at the part of the road we was driving down. I had to go over to the Longview inspection shop. That's what it was. I had to go over to the Longview inspection shop and get something out of my work truck. And then we were coming down the feeder getting ready to get on 225, and there was a camera crew set up right there by the refinery, and we're looking at this big old fire like, whoa. But as always, I go to get on the highway, I romp on that old 360, and it didn't have much of an exhaust system. It didn't have headers, but it was pretty much just straight out the back and just a couple old cheap cherry bombs I put on it. You know my affinity for them cherry bombs. It's the favorite cheap exhaust in the world. I like the way it sounds. And I romp on them glass packs and up that feeder road right in front of that camera crew. I'm going to blow their microphones out. We get over to Houston, we do our running around, we decide to go crash at Joey's house that night. We're over in that part of town. Joey still lives with his mom and dad. We come in the door, of course, acting like we've been out doing prayer meetings and helping the needy and such. Looks of contrition on our face. That we're coming in a little late. Joey's dad said, what y'all do tonight? Oh, just a little run around. Didn't get in too much. Went and shot some pool. Said, huh? Well, that's funny. I was watching the news earlier. They were showing people evacuate Pasadena. I seen that old shitty looking Dodge here hauling us up the... What were you thinking? We'd have been caught by damn KPRH2. You know, they done ratted us out. There's a little bar over there. You bring up Pasadena, everybody's like, oh, did you go to Gillies? Well, Gillies is for tourists, man. It's cool. It's a fun thing to go see. It was back in the day, but the real joint in Pasadena was a place called G's Ice House off 225, and it was a slaughterhouse. Well, you see fist fights. They had a mechanical bull. You could have yourself a good time at G's Ice House, and they didn't card you neither. You go in G's Ice House, have you a good old time, and that's most time my work buddies would get off work. That's where we go. We go to G's Ice House. Still wearing our FRCs. Everybody else there had FRCs on. Bunch of plant workers. Go in there and chase the few girls that run around Pasadena that weren't terrifying at the time. Oh, it's time working. I love this job. I get to go places. I'm not in the same place every day. I get to go to all these different plants. I'm working in Exxon BOP. I'm working in Clear Lake. I'm going down to Chocolate Bayou and Amoco. Every once in a while I get to do a little travel gig. Go out to Beaumont. Go out to Louisiana. Get a little hotel room. Go work with some people I ain't met before. It's interesting. It's exciting. And you're climbing around pipe racks and towers. I didn't like heights, but I like being up in them pipe racks. I like climbing them flare towers. It made me feel strong. I was putting on muscle. I was feeling good. I was probably in the best shape of my life at that time, which was still fat, but boy, I was stout. Hard-headed, too. I shaved my head. Thought I was tough. And, got talking to this little girl. Longview Inspection had offices everywhere, and they had a little office in Ohio, and I got to talking to this little girl. There's a couple girls involved in this story, and I'm not going to talk too much about them. One of them was a really great human being. One of them was a piece of shit. But none of that really matters. This story's about me. I'm not going to go much into them, but there was two girls involved this time period. First girl's not a great one. But she lives up in Ohio, and I'm desperate to go up to Ohio and hang out with her. We're chit-chatting back and forth and have met through work stuff. And she's telling me about all the stuff they get to do up there in Ohio. Sounds like a lot of fun. About that time, Longview Inspection buys another company called CanSpec. They were a big inspection company in Canada, but they had some offices in the U.S. and offices along the Canadian border, and I always wanted to go somewhere where there's snow. Growing up in Houston, you want to be, when I was a kid, I used to tell my mom and dad I wanted to live in Boulder, Colorado and be a police officer and hang out with Mark and Mindy. That was my dream. I wanted to be somewhere where it snowed and there was mountains. And I was tired of looking at Katy, Texas, and tired of looking at pine trees. I needed something new. I was looking for my first big adventure. So I talked to my boss. My boss says, hey, I can get you transferred. I can't get you transferred to that Ohio office. They don't do a lot of stuff, but I can get you transferred to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We got an office in Brookfield, Wisconsin that we just took over for CanSpec. And they need guys. They got a lot of work going on. They do work for Chrysler. They do work for the Harley-Davidson plant. Milwaukee, a lot of testing parts. They do a bunch of aircraft work, and they do pipeline radiography. So I can get you a job up there. So I apply for that job, and lo and behold, they give it to me. But now I got my card. I can work just about anywhere in the U.S. I've taken my Nuclear Regulatory Committee test in Louisiana, my state test. I got reciprocity. I can work just about anywhere I want to within the continental United States. It's a benefit of being in a business like that, because you're not strapped anywhere. So of course, go home and tell my parents I'm going to move to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Some of it's about this girl, but some of it's just about wanting to get away. Some of it's just about wanting to get away from them, honestly. They were, and I understand why now. I'm a parent, but they were very controlling. They were pretty strict, believe it or not. And I wanted to be out on my own. I wanted to go do something new. I wanted to do adventure. Some of my friends were getting into trouble that I didn't want to get into. Joey was doing his own thing. He was getting into computers. And I was just ready for something new. Boy, my mama didn't want me to move to Milwaukee. Move to Milwaukee, I'm too far away from her. She can't control me in Milwaukee. I might as well be 1,000 miles away. Houston, Texas. But they done gave me the job. I'm gonna move. I'm gonna move at the beginning of November. September. So I start getting ready for the move. I get rid of my apartment in Pasadena. Well, I lived over in Pasadena, boy, I had this little cat I called Radar. An ex-girlfriend had given him to me as a kitten. He had giant ears, but he was a runt. And I called him Radar. I had a little bookshelf when you first walked in the door of my apartment, and Radar would sit there on that bookshelf, and he'd slap the piss out of your head when you walked by. I like Radar. He was a fun cat. You know, I would go out on these jobs for 2 or 3 days at a time, these turnarounds. So one of these times I came home and I got sent right back out on a turnaround job as a helper. And I just had enough time to sit down and make myself some Hormel chili, a little Frito pie or something. I said, yeah, I'll be up there. Let me finish eating. I'll get my fresh FRCs. I'll head out to the job site. I was on the phone. I had the refrigerator open. Radar's hanging out on the cabinet while doing radar stuff. I don't think nothing about it. I get all my stuff together. I shut the refrigerator door. I go get in my truck. I go to work for a 36-hour shift. Come home at the end of that. I had in the kitchen of that little apartment, you know, there's an efficiency. So the bedroom and living room are all the same thing. There's a little patio door. And the kitchen, it's just a little kitchenette. And then there's a little space like a breakfast nook there. It's just a little rectangular apartment. I had the seats out of an old Dodge van sitting there, and I would sit in those seats of those Dodge van and use my computer. I get on my computer, I log on to AOL, talking to some of my friends in chat rooms and such. Just come off this job, I'm tired. Hadn't even had a shower yet. I keep hearing radar. Meow. 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 Look around the apartment. Where you at, radar? Can't find radar. Go take a shower, get cleaned up. Come back here, radar's still making that noise. Well, I don't know where that damn cat is. So I start looking in the cabinets. Maybe got himself, every once in a while, I get himself trapped in a cabinet. So I'm screwing around. He ain't in none of the cabinets. Man, where's the damn cat? Well, I open that refrigerator door, and radar done been in the refrigerator for 3 days. I don't know how he was alive, but he had shit and pissed on everything. It took me 2 days to clean that refrigerator out and get it deal with it. It still had a smell. You know, there's no worse smell in the world than cat piss. I believe that is the worst smell on the entire planet. You want to make me gag? Take me somewhere where there's a bunch of cat piss. I will be done. And radar had pissed all in that refrigerator. Cleaned it up. But I remember one of the things I was happy about when we were cleaning out that apartment so I could move out. And I ended up giving radar to a neighbor lady who just really liked him. He'd get out every once in a while. He'd go over to her place and she would feed him, and she just liked him. So I ended up giving radar to her because I'm moving to Milwaukee. I ain't going to take no cat with me. But I remember thinking, boy, I'm glad I never had to smell that refrigerator again. Moved out of that $300 apartment. And took all my stuff and I packed it in that Dodge truck in the bed. Bought a camouflage tarp from Walmart. We strapped it down bungee cords, 9 million bungee cords. And that picture right there is the only picture I have of that truck, I think. But that is literally me in the driveway getting ready to leave on my grand adventure. Cowboy hat, belt buckle big as a dinner plate. Papa used to call it a tombstone for a dead dick. Boy, I thought I was something. I had a chain on my wallet. I thought I was tough. I thought I was something. Old Red Wing work boots on, steel toes. Thought I was Garth Brooks or some kind of stuff. Gonna go up there and show them Milwaukeeans what a Texan's about. Got all my stuff there. I leave home. I hug my mama and my daddy. One of the funniest things, right before I was about to leave, right before I was finally, it looked like I was actually about to move to Milwaukee. My mom couldn't take it anymore. She calls my dad at work one day. She says, baby, I'm telling you this as seriously as I can tell you this, but you need to call your friend Chuck Frazier, help Jerry get that job over at Longview Inspection. And you need to tell Chuck Frazier that he's got to put a stop to this. My son ain't going to Milwaukee. She did all this behind my back. My dad, of course, won't keep his wife happy. Calls Chuck Frazier. But what he didn't know was that was the very day that Longview Inspection had let Chuck Frazier go. In fact, I was driving Chuck Frazier home in the work truck because he had a work car, and I don't remember what the circumstances were, but they'd let him go for some reason or other. My dad called Chuck Frazier, and Chuck Frazier calls my dad from home and goes, well, you ain't going to believe this. They fired me. I can't do nothing about that. Your boy's going to Milwaukee. Oh, Sherry Kay tried to put a stick in it, though. She used her move. She tried to put the sticks in it. But yeah, that picture, that day I left, and I drive on up to Kilgore, Texas, because my Aunt Janet, her husband was a dude at the time named Peter, and Peter was an ex-federale from Mexico. Peter's tough. I like Uncle Peter. He's cool. We got along pretty good, me and old Peter. But Peter worked for a little used tire joint. And Peter was going to give me some good used tires for that Dodge truck. And I'm pretty sure they had to pay for them, but they put some good tires on that Dodge truck for me. And of course, hugged my Aunt Janet around the neck. I was very close to my family back in. And me and Aunt Janet were always really tight. Spent a lot of time with her as a kid. Of course, I loved her deeply. And me and say my goodbyes to Uncle Peter and Aunt Janet. Of course, my mom's back in Houston, mad as hell at me. I can help you do nothing. You don't need to be going up there. You ain't got no business going that far away from your family. I don't even understand why you want to go all that way. I load that truck up and I start heading to Milwaukee. I drive up through Memphis. But I'm going to Milwaukee via Ohio because I want to go see this old gal. She lives in Westlake Falls, Ohio, or Cuyahoga Falls. Maybe the town's called Westlake. It don't matter. I drive up through Kentucky. You know, it's the end of November. It'll get a little weather. But old Dodge truck does it, buddy. Old Dodge truck just chugs through it. I do like Uncle Bobby. I tuck in behind them truck drivers. Tuck in behind them truck drivers, save myself some gas money. And I get to Ohio and I hang out with this old gal for a couple of days. And we have us a good time. And I meet her family and such. And then I make the trek on to Milwaukee. And boy, when I tell you I'm learning how to be an adult in adult situation, I'm just learning. I've never been out on my own like this. And the Dodge had a problem. And I never figured out what would cause the problem. And I'm sure one of you experts out there will know exactly what was causing this problem. But for whatever reason, that Dodge would vibrate the starter bolts out and drop the starter out every once in a while. And it would happen while you're going down the road. You'd hear it bounce around, you turn the key and it go, and you'd have to pull over somewhere and put the starter back in. I kept extra starter bolts for that reason. I would Loctite them, do everything I could think of, keep them starter bolts in, but that engine would kick a starter every once in a while. I don't know why. I don't know what caused that particular problem, but it would sure do it. Well, old Dodge kicks the starter. Right outside a little town called Gary, Indiana. Now, being a young, fresh-faced 19-year-old that didn't know anything about the world, I didn't know nothing about no Gary, Indiana at the time. But Gary, Indiana is a dangerous place. I didn't know it. Some people call it East Chicago. It's not a good place to pull over. There was a rest stop there on the side of the highway, off the turnpike. And I pulled into Gary, Indiana rest stop and got out, dug my tools out of the passenger seat. All my stuff was crammed in the bed, you know. Nothing room in my bed, crap like that, a dresser, furniture, a few belongings. Mostly tools. And that tarp was flapping so bad in the wind, I had this big old piece of pipe I found. I stuck that piece of pipe on top of that tarp, hold that tarp down, make it not flap so much because it's so noisy. And I get up under that truck and start working on that starter, and I hear a car pull up. I look out from under the truck, and I just barely see the front of a little red Toyota Corolla. And I see 3 doors open. And I see feet approaching me and got boots on, like work boots. And a guy says, "Hey man, you need some help?" I said, "Nah, I appreciate it. I think I got it. The starter fell out of my truck. I just got to fix it." He said, "Oh, that's all it is." And about that time, somebody grabbed my legs, one of them sets of feet, and they yanked me out from under that truck on my back. And I got my tools in my hand, and I look up at them, and it's 3 dudes, young white dudes with shaved heads. And the only other thing I noticed was that they had Michigan plates on their car. And he said, "Well, since you're not having too many problems, we need your money." I didn't have a lot of money on me at the time. I think about $50, $60. Just waiting to get my paycheck when I got to Milwaukee. They had forwarded it up there for me. They were going to pay me out of that office. This man ain't got no money. He said, wrong answer, and they hit me in the face with that pipe. Right across the head right there. Bust my head open, had some stitches up under the hairline. Kicked me in the ribs, stomped on my ankle, rolled me over, took my wallet, my little $50, $60, yanked open the tarp, jacked a couple things out of the back of my truck that I don't even know what all they got, maybe some tools. And that little Toyota drove off, and I just laid there on the side of that truck and went to sleep. Got hit in the head kind of hard. Not enough to knock me out, but enough to just make you go, I'm done. Never had anything like that happen to me before. You know, like that. One thing, but not like this, you know. So, you don't know what to do in a situation like that. Got woke up by an Indiana State Trooper that found me. They pulled in the rest stop, checked the rest stop out, saw that truck sitting there. Came back an hour later, that truck was still sitting there, decided to get out and inspect it, saw me laying under the side of it on the passenger side. Wakes me up, asks me what happened. I tell him what happened. He calls an ambulance. The ambulance comes and picks me up, takes me to a hospital in LaPorte, Indiana. Guess they do an investigation. Guess it's happened a couple times before at that same rest stop. Ain't much I can do about it. They put some stitches in my head. Social worker comes in and says, we know she had no wallet, no ID. I was like, no, they took my wallet, ID. She said, well, state trooper found your wallet in the trash can. Or in the grass or something. So I still have my pictures and I still have my driver's license. Money was gone. Didn't have my gas money to finish getting to Milwaukee. Panicking a little bit. Social worker says, don't worry, we're going to do something to help you out. But you got anybody you want to call? We got a phone here, you can make a long distance phone call. And I called my parents' house and nobody answered the phone. So the next thing I did is I called my Aunt Janet. And my Aunt Janet right away, Western Union me $60. It's a lot of money then. She wanted to make sure I was okay. She sent me that $60. Never did pay her back. Still owe her that $60. Social work comes in. They said, we got a pass for you to get through all the tolls you need to get through. Get down the turnpike and get to where you're going. And they brought your pickup over here to the hospital. And lo and behold, that Indiana State Trooper found me. I had told him I was like, I got to finish putting my starter in. He's like, no, you got to go to the hospital, son. I don't know how bad you're hurt. You've been hit in the head pretty hard. I've bled all over the place. I said, no, you go in the hospital, son. Well, lo and behold, you know that Indiana State Trooper and his buddy went over there and put my starter in that truck for me. They even Loctited it. And they brought that truck to the hospital. And I got out of the hospital, and they gave me my little pass to get through the tolls. And I had my little Western Union money for Aunt Janet. Got back on the road to Milwaukee. The adventure continued. Got to Milwaukee the next night about midnight. I just pulled right up the shop. I didn't know what to do. I didn't have a place to stay yet. I figured I'd just park at the shop, catch me some rest, start fresh in the morning. I was already a couple days behind, but I was there the day I was supposed to start work. When I get to the shop there at night, there's a guy working late in the shop on some production pieces. His name's George Thornton. He's from Shreveport, Louisiana. He's a crusty old man, but nice enough guy. And George Thornton says, me and my family got an extra room you can rent. Why don't I just take you home with me tonight? get you a good bed to sleep in. We'll figure out what to do about your stuff tomorrow. You can leave your truck here. I went home with George Storton and his family and started renting a room from him. George Storton, good old dude. Next day I started work at the Brookfield Longview Inspection Office in Brookfield, Wisconsin. And I liked that little office. It was cool, you know. I was excited about working there. I was excited about my adventure. And they were going to teach me pipeline work. I've never done no pipeline radiography. It's a whole different beast. You know, you're out there in the middle of nowhere running pipelines in the back of a truck. Sometimes living in the truck. They had these big old 1-ton Dodge trucks, 4-wheel drive, being out there in the wilderness. They did pipelines all up down the Canadian border. It's a big part of their business. They also did all the work, like I said, for Harley Davidson. All the mag testing and penetrant testing. And I was excited about that too. Well, a young man ain't a little fascinated with Harley Davidson. That weekend, thing you got to know about Milwaukee is every little neighborhood has its own little bar there. Milwaukee's kind of a crazy place, but all them little neighborhoods got their own bars. Everybody, it was a different environment than I grew up, but everybody lives in that neighborhood, likes to go to that bar. And so our little neighborhood bar was a place called Denim and Diamonds. Before you get too excited, be like, I know where Denim and Diamonds is. Every neighborhood, every little shit town in America got a bar called Denim and Diamonds. I've seen about 20 of them. But this is a Denim and Diamonds right there in Milwaukee, in Brookfield. And George, his wife, take me out to Denim and Diamonds, introduced me to the locals. Start turning me on to Wisconsin culture. Everybody liked to drink beer and shoot darts, and I was having a good time with that. And it was my first time, like, really, you have to understand, like, I'm feeling like an adult. They're letting me in the bar to drink. I'm not having to worry about that. I'm hanging out with other adults. I'm in adult situations for the first time completely on my own. I start working at Longview Inspection in that November. I start hanging out just about every night, Denim and Diamonds. And because it's a shift work town and union town, the bars stay open. They don't have blue light laws like Texas, or they didn't at the time. I don't know what it's like now. But you could go in the bar on Sunday at 6 o'clock in the morning, get yourself a Bloody Mary. Wasn't a big deal. You could go to the bar just about any time of night. It didn't seem like there was much of a closing time. And I find myself enjoying that bar scene. I hadn't had the bar scene like that. I'm hanging out, and it's also cool because the girls like me because of the way I talk. You know, back then it wasn't like the internet is now. Everybody wasn't connected to everybody. The girls ain't heard a boy like me talk before. Oh my God, say my name. Jessica. Girls are coming easy to me up there, and me and this other girl, we done broke up. It ain't gonna work out between us. Oh, Ohio girl. She was a first class mess. It ain't gonna work out between us. But boy, the girls in Milwaukee liked me. They liked me a lot. And I'm having a good time. Enjoying my little young sexual revolution. About 20 years old now. I'm also experiencing my first real snow because, boy, it started snowing a little early up there. Oh, it snowed a lot. I've never been snow like that. And now I got to learn how to drive in it. Don't get me wrong. Like, I had driven in black ice before, but I'd never driven in no snow like this. Now I'm driving in real. In fact, when I went to break up with that old gal in Ohio, I drove to Ohio to break up with her. I drove back to Ohio to break up with her in that old Dodge truck. And I don't remember, is that 97? At the time, it was the worst blizzard in history. At the time, it was the worst blizzard they'd had in 20 years or something, as I'm driving to Ohio. And I remember I got to that part through Indiana, and I'd never seen snow like that, but never seen snow go sideways. And literally, That old Dodge truck was just moving on the road. The snow was, the wind was blowing me around, and it was just a drive all the way to Ohio like this, just kind of going sideways. At some point, my starter falls out again, but I learned my lesson about Gary, Indiana. I ain't about to get out here in the snow, fix the starter. I just left the truck running everywhere I stopped. Even when I was getting gas, waited till I got to Ohio, fixed the truck, broke up with the girl, drove back to Milwaukee. Got to fix the truck before you break up with the girl, so you got a driveway to use. So I do it, and I go back to Milwaukee, and I'm learning how to drive on snow. And I'm going to tell you this right now, and you can argue with me till you're blue in the face, but a 3/4 ton, 2-wheel drive Dodge truck in the snow sucks. That truck will get stuck on flat grass. You understand? In a flat driveway. If it got iced up and you tried to leave the next morning, you'd just be spinning tires. You wouldn't go no damn where. It took me a minute before anybody taught me about sandbags. Boy, I had a time trying to learn how to drive that Dodge in snow like I'd never been in before. I remember the first time I hit the brakes and turned the wheel, and the truck just kept going straight like an ice skater. Just right off in the ditch. Ran into somebody in Milwaukee. I hit a little Ford Escort. I tried to stop at a red light. The truck kept going. Hit the back of a little Ford Escort. It bounced out in the middle of the intersection like a ballerina. Of course, now I got an insurance problem. Old truck's just getting worse and worse looking as I bounce it off shit all around Milwaukee. Yeah, I remember one of the first couple of weekends I was in Milwaukee, we had this guy named Iron Mike. He was the mad guy at the shop. Remember I told you mad guys are weird? Iron Mike, no exception. Iron Mike, Wisconsin native. He's the mad guy. Weird little dude. Every time Iron Mike says something, it's right away. Hey, we're going to go to the fish fry right away. Hey, let's get these parts done right away. Hey, let's do this right away. And I'm from Texas. We don't do shit right away. We're always fixing to do something. I got tired of that. I said, brother, you got to stop telling me right away. He goes, oh, it's just pattern of speech. That's what they say. Everything's right away. Him and George, everybody's like, man, this Sunday they're going to do a fish fry at the bar. I'm going to go down and have fish chips, fish fry at the bar for the Packers game. Everybody watches the Packers game. I've never been in a state where everybody supported one team so wholeheartedly. The way them people are about the Packers is just weird. I said, man, I like a little fried fish. I'm down for a fish fry for sure. So I go to the fish fry with them, and they bring out this fish like I ain't never seen before. What the hell is that? He said, it's cod and whitefish. Did a fish fry. I said, y'all ain't got no catfish. And I swear to God, that's what the bartender told me. No, man, that's trash fish. That's what the black folks eat. And I was like, please tell me where the black folks are eating so I can go get me some catfish. I love me some trash fish. It's a new world, you know. Had another incident happen at Denim Diamonds one night. I told you I thought I was tough. They all called me Tex because I wore a cowboy hat and that ridiculous belt buckle you seen in that picture. I like shooting pool, playing darts. I was pretty good at both. I like Van Halen, and I like country music. And there's a lot of people in Wisconsin like country music, so I found my group of people. But by this time, I had moved out of George's place, and I had roommated with some dudes I'd met at Denim Diamonds. A guy named Jason. And Jason, I'm going to talk a little bit about Jason. A guy named Jason, and I think it was his brother Ricky and the girlfriend. And they had a little place. They had an extra room, and I moved in them. They were more my speed. They were an old married couple, and I started renting a room from them. And you know, the couple, they kind of did their own thing most of the time, but me and Jason would end up hanging out a lot together. And Jason was a First Nations kid that supposedly grew up on a reservation somewhere. He had glasses, and he had long, curly, like Wayne's World hair, like the black hair, but it was like super curly, right? And this kind of ridiculous rock and roll mullet thing going on. And he wore glasses, and he was shaped like a frog. He looked like a frog in the face, and he looked like a frog in every other aspect. Wasn't a lot to Jason. He didn't stand out. He didn't have a lot of luck with the ladies, but Jason's problem is Jason was the instigator. Jason was a guy who liked to get loud and talk a bunch of crap to people. But as I found out, when stuff would break out, Jason would get out of town. One night, me and Jason hanging out over Denim Islands, and this dude walks in. Looks like one of the local workers, you know. Look like he'd been working machine shop all day. Black dude, taller than me, bigger than me, probably got 100 pounds on me. Big boy. At the time, I must have felt 230. Chubby, but this guy's a big old boy, big old belly, but he's a big guy. He's got big arms. He's a big guy. He comes and he sits down on this side of me. And Jason says, "Oh, I didn't know they started letting," and this is what he said, and I didn't know. At the time, I was from East Texas. The only racial slurs I'd heard in my life were the really bad ones. You know, they didn't get real creative in East Texas. They just pretty much used the one most of the time. But I'd never heard anybody use the word spade as a racial slur. I didn't know that. I didn't have a clue that it was. It's not something I would ever say to anybody, but I didn't know that. I didn't know their patterns of speech. And he said, "I can't believe they let." And I said, "What the hell's a spade?" Like, I only knew it as a garden tool. And this dude that has sat down over here by me gets kind of hot, turns around and said, "What the hell did you call me? Remember I told y'all about my freak out with Chris Shaw that one time? I think it was PTSD from this dude. What the hell did you call me?" I said, "I didn't call you nothing. This dude said something about it." And Jason starts running his mouth at the guy. "What are you going to do about it?" Da, 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 da. I'm like, "What are you doing, bro?" I still don't grasp what has happened. But now this dude's talking shit to my buddy, and I turn around and was like, "Hey, man, you need to watch your mouth, bro. Who are you talking to?" He said, "I'll tell you who I'm talking to. Once you come on outside, I'll show you who you're talking to." I said, "By God, let's get to it." I thought I was tough. Got my cowboy boots on. I'm about to put an ass whooping on you. I ain't never put an ass whooping on anybody in my life. I just assume I know how to because I've watched a lot of Sylvester Stallone and Jean-Claude Van Damme movies. I feel like I remember enough. Thought I was tough. Me and him start heading out the back door of Denim Diamonds. And everybody's oohing and on. "Oh shit, it's about to go down. Oh no, it's icy and snowy outside." Me and this old boy, we're about to go out there and have it out. I look around for Jason. Guess what? I can't find Jason. Jason is gone. Jason has vacated the premises. Jason's no longer in the equation. But now I done let my mouth get me off in something I gotta go deal with. And I square off behind that bar with this dude. And I was like, "You know, you still walk away from this. I don't want to have to hurt you." And he just kind of laughs, which bothered me some. And I figured I'd get the show started right. And I went to try to kick him in the nuts. And I slipped in the ice and snow with them damn cowboy boots. And I just kind of kicked him on the inside of his thigh. And he just grunted and reached down as I slipped and punched me in the chest. And I just hit that. When I tell you I hit that pavement I laid in that asphalt like Superman punch. And I knew that I got myself into something I couldn't get out of. But I wasn't going to let this dude pump me. I was just delusionary, still thinking I had a chance. And he backed off and let me get to my feet. He was a gentleman. And I slipped and slided, got to my feet, cursed myself for wearing cowboy boots in the ice to fight. But that ain't really what caused the problem. It just ain't helping. And I go take another swing at him, and old boy just grabs my fist out of midair and slaps it down. Not like a commando type thing, just a whack, slaps my fist down like it don't matter. And the power with which his hand slapped my fist down hurt my shoulder. And I got mad. I had a temper. I got mad. I swung at him with the left. He does it again. And then he pops me in the mouth, just a straight jab. Pop! Right in the mouth. Flattens my nose, right in the mouth. He's got a big old ham fist. Not all his power, just a rocks my head back. Now we're a little closer to the bar. I get ready to swing again. He pops me in the face again. My head bounces off the cinder wall of the bar. Now I'm seeing stars. I try to take a swing again, and he just open hand slaps me on the side of the head and puts me on the ground. And then I got dirty because I was mad. I think I was crying a little bit. Tears in my eyes. Can't see. My head's spinning. Eyes watering. This son of a bitch done made me look like a fool. Never mind that. Realistically, I done made myself look like a fool. I am getting a well-needed ass whooping. This is one of the most important ass whoopings I ever got in my whole life. I didn't know it at the time. At the time, I still think I could win it. And they had them little, them little landscaping timbers around a little flower bed there on the back of the bar. And there was a little short piece of that landscaping timber. And I thought, I got your ass. And I got my feet in that dirt because I had a little better grip in them boots. And I reached down and grabbed a hold of that landscaping timber. And I reared back and I swung it right at his head. And same thing, he just put that arm up and slapped that timber out of my hand. And then that time he jacked me. That time he caught me with his right hand, right here up under the jaw. And he put a little more on that one, showed me what he's capable of. Pop! That pop hit me. I couldn't talk after that pop. It swelled my jaw up immediately. I bounced off the wall again, hit the ground. Because I'm going to try to get myself up. He said, "We good?" And I looked at him, eyes wide, still on my hands and knees. He said, "We good?" And I couldn't talk, so I just gave him one of these. And I closed my eyes, and the next thing I felt was his hand grabbing mine. And he helped me get to my feet. He said, "You got heart, dog," and slapped me on the back. And he walked back in the bar with me. And everybody, of course, japing and cheering, doing their thing. "Ooh, buddy, got a hold of you. Ooh, Tex took a beating. Daggone, Tex, thought you Texans knew how to fight." This old dude takes me back to the bar, sits me down at the bar with me. And I get to know him. We have a beer together. And we end up drinking all night together. And his name is Charles Ludy. And what I found out about Charles, I found out a lot about Charles. Charles had a job where Charles carried around a 60-pound grinder all day, deburring parts. Charles is made of iron. He may look fat, but he's made of iron. Charles is quite a bit older than me. He's in his 40s, late 40s at the time. I get to know Charles quite well. I spent some time with Charles' family, and I remained in contact with Charles Ludy up till about a week before he died, several years ago. I was too far away to go to the funeral, but Charles Ludy was my good friend from that day on. But Charles Ludy put an ass whooping on me. Charles Ludy whooped me up and down that parking lot like an ass whooping. That's where you learn about the difference between show muscle and work muscle. Charles had work muscle. Work muscle is a different kind of strong. Cock strong and work muscle is a different kind of strong than going to the gym muscle. I'm on a fitness journey now to build my muscle and strengthen myself. But a lot of the other things I do to do that are built around doing work, because I know that work muscle makes you strong. I think that's pretty much what the whole idea of CrossFit. I used to do a joke where I was like, every time I see CrossFit, it just looks like a dude that didn't want to finish his gym. It's like, "Hey, y'all come over here. Move this air conditioner over there. Move that lumber over there. Yeah, you're CrossFit, brother." Right? You're getting jacked, bro. Because you look, most of the popular workouts today, all the cool, the jailhouse hard, all that stuff is basically based around building work muscle. It's mimicking work. It's why them dad blasted them Russians are so stout, because they start working. It's why my buddy Steve was such a powerhouse, because he started working when he's 19 years old, carrying roofing. Work muscle is different. Charles had the work muscle. A few months or two later, truck broke down again. I forgot what happened to it. But Longview Inspection had a bunch of old junk 1-ton Dodges, 3/4-ton Dodges that were old darkroom trucks that were just sitting on the lot they hadn't done nothing with, but they were broke down, stuff was wrong with them. And the guy that was the manager at the time said, "Hey man, I know you probably got a lot of money right now. If you need some parts, go get you some parts off one of them junk trucks." So I did. I went out there and robbed some parts off them junk trucks. Didn't rob them, but went out there and took them off. But I was working out there in the snow, and the snow got down in my boots. My feet got wet, and I didn't think nothing about it. Figured I'd do something about it later. Got the truck running again. A couple of days later, felt like I was getting a cold. Well, you shouldn't let your feet get wet, dummy. Felt like I was getting cold, so I started taking NyQuil. Boy, I took NyQuil about a week, and it felt like I was just getting worse. But I didn't know what else. That's what I knew to do about a cold. You take NyQuil. And I was taking that NyQuil, but boy, when I tell you, it felt like I couldn't breathe. It felt like somebody was sitting on my chest at night. I couldn't get no air in, you know. And I snored, snuffled, wasn't sleeping good. And I was in there with a pallet of parts one day, and I asked the new manager that had just taken over that shop, why they hired this ass. Never mind. Why they hired this guy, I don't know. I ain't gonna say his name, but the hell with this dude. But he used to work. He had previously worked for the Schlitz Malt Liquor Company. Why they hired him to come run an X-ray shop, you can never tell me. Guy was a moron. That dude's. I go, hey man, I think I need to go to the doctor. I've been sick for about a week and a half now. I'm not getting any better. I'm having trouble getting air. I can barely talk. He goes, well, you can go to the doctor when you get off work. I was like, they're closed when I go for work. He goes, go to the hospital. I need you today. We got an overload. We had a bunch of Chrysler rear ends from the Chrysler plant that we had to mag test. Just thousands of them come in on an 18-wheeler on pallets. It's all right, man. Right about that time, I grabbed a pallet jack, grabbed one of those pallets, take it back there to mag test it. And I remember at that point, I was breathing like this. I was going, I was trying to smoke a Marlboro Light cigarette. I was going, and I took about 3 steps of that pallet jack and passed out, and they had to call an ambulance for me. And they took me to a hospital. I think it was Menominee Falls was the name of the hospital, or Brown Deer Road maybe, in Milwaukee. And they took me over to Menominee Falls Hospital. And now all of a sudden they put me in a room by myself, and they do some tests on me and stuff, and they got me on this oxygen. And now everybody's coming to my rooms wearing masks. And they tell me I have double pneumonia in both lungs. Both lungs are 20% infiltrated. I got double pneumonia. And that I'm in pretty bad shape. And they don't know if it's bacterial or viral yet. That's why they're wearing the mask. I can't hardly talk. Call mom and dad, talk to them. Of course, they're worried sick. And my mom's trying to figure out how to get to Milwaukee, and they just don't have the money to do that at the time. And so a gal I've been seeing, she comes up there to check on me, and they ask her sign power of attorney stuff because they're worried about me. I'm not in good shape. They put me on all these treatments, but I still ain't breathing right. And I laid up in that hospital about 2 weeks, racked up a hell of a hospital bill that I didn't have a chance in hell of paying. And it was scary as shit, man. It was scary being away from your family, being sick like that. Scary shit. I'd never had no pneumonia before. I had my lungs taken away from me. And it was a long time before I got feeling better. And of course, I was communicating with work and everybody else, and George, letting them know what had happened to me. And it was scary as shit. It's no fun thinking you're going to die in a strange land. Wisconsin's about as strange land as I've been to. Lo and behold, I finally get better. They let me out of the hospital, but I'm still weak as shit. I done lost muscle. It don't take long for muscle to start atrophying when you're laid up on your back trying to learn how to breathe again. Still really not breathing great. They send me home with all these breathing treatments, all this kind of stuff that I got to do for the next so forth weeks. Go back to work a couple days later, and they pull me in the office. There was another incident. I got in a little fisticuffs with one of the boss's son that didn't go good. And we had both got in trouble about that. So I had a little strike on me already. But I guess when I was out for 2 weeks, they decided to get rid of me. So they pulled me in the office and fired me. But what they told me was because I stole parts off one of them trucks out there. And I was like, the old manager told me I could have them. They're like, well, he ain't here no more, and we got you on camera. Still, I was like, yeah, I wasn't trying to hide it. He told me I could have the parts. I went out there and got the parts. Yeah, we got to let you go. Old Schlitz malt liquor fires me on the spot. And boy, I raised a fuss. Oh, I raised some hell to them people. I done been doing pipelines and all kind of stuff, and was getting really good. I liked my job. I was so pissed. I raised such a fuss that they went and got the locks changed, make sure I didn't show back up. I was a hothead, I tell you. I was an idiot. Didn't know how to act. I was a kid. 20-year-old moron. Of course, now I got to go find another job. And sure enough, I went and found me another little x-ray shop right there in Milwaukee. They hired me on the spot. Said I could start in a week. No big deal. Talked to my roommates. They're like, hey, no big deal. We'll give you a grace period. I decided to go out a couple nights later. That little old gal and her friends go to this big country bar down there in Milwaukee. It's called Bronco Billy's. It's one of those big old country where they did hip hop and everything in one place, you know. Times Square, whatever. They got a Grand Central Station, Electric Cowboy. You name it, just put some stupid ass two hillbilly words together and you'll find the name of one of these bars. This one's called Bronco Billy's. Dropped her off, was headed back to my place that night. Snowing, ice on the road. It's late December. Getting close to Christmas time. And sure enough, I didn't calculate the turn right, and I flipped that Dodge truck off in a ditch. Rolled it over one whole way until it landed back on its wheels. Of course, bounced me all over the cab, beat the piss out of me, and crushed in the whole back of the cab, but I still had my windshield. It was cracked, but it crushed in the whole back of the cab, and it broke the back windshield. And I just drove the truck out of that ditch. Got home the night, figured I'd worry about it the next day. Of course, the truck's running like crap now. It's been rolled over. It's wobbling, like it's got a bent rim or whatever, but drove it home. I drove that truck around about another month, or about another couple weeks, a week or two. And old truck's running so bad I couldn't hardly stand it anymore. I was getting ready to start that other job, so found a little wrecking yard over there on the outskirts of Brookfield, and asked him what he'd give me for that truck. He gave me $300 or $400 for that truck. He wanted the parts off of it, and then he sold me. He had a little early '80s Mercury Lynx. Said it runs okay. And he sold me that Mercury Lynx for $250. I start that other job, just kind of get started with that other job and go through all the orientation. Of course, got to do all the safety classes again, get certified again, and all that kind of stuff, because I can't get nothing from my old job. In the process of driving that little Mercury Lynx around, one day the brakes go out on that little Mercury Lynx, and I can't figure out the caliper's bad. Tear it down and figure out there's something wrong with the caliper. Go around, but for whatever reason, this always happens to me. I always get the oddball car. I always get the truck that for one reason, for 6 months that year, they put this size brakes on it. Or for that year only, they put these kind of headlights. I always get the oddballs. It seems like that happens to me every time in life. My little Mazda's one of the weird Mazdas they did some weird stuff on. Took me forever to find some parts for it the other day. That little Mercury Lynx is one year they did all-wheel disc brakes or something weird with that Mercury Lynx. I can't find a caliper for it nowhere, but I got to have a little car to drive. And I remember my papa showed me something one time. He said, don't you ever do this. You do this in an emergency, but don't ever do this and depend on it. But you could unloosen the brake line if you had a bad caliper on one wheel. Take you like a little nail, stick that nail in there, it fit in there, and screw that back in the caliper. You can get brake pressure to control your other brakes. So, well, I'll do that till I can get me a caliper. So I go do that. Boy, a little Lynx stopped pretty good. When you hit the brakes too hard, it's going to jerk off to the right. You got to be mindful of how you drive it. But it did a lot better in the snow than that Dodge. Well, the company that I went to take the job for, they said, man, we was going to put you on this other job, but that job got canceled, so we're not going to have any work for you for a month. Shit, man, I got to do something for a month. I don't know what to do for a month. And I called my parents, and they said, well, why don't you just come down and visit, and we'll help you get back at the end of the month, and you can start your new job. Well, that sounds like a good idea to me, so pile up my crap and a bunch of my crap in that Mercury Lynx. Of course, my trusty cardboard Coke box of cassettes, my treasure. Had those in my Dodge, got them to put the radio out of the Dodge in the Mercury Lynx. My little JVC cassette deck, gotta have my tunes. Need tunes more than you need brakes. And I set out for Texas. I started going down to I-94. And right about Kenosha, I got that little Mercury Lynx just wound up good as it'll go. And that engine blows. And when I say it blew like a NASCAR engine, like a NASCAR. Oil went up the windshield, smoke out the fenders. I don't know how bad I blew the engine, but I knew it was toast. It has no power, will barely pull itself out of its own way. I get it off the freeway. I pull into this, there's a little beer joint on the side of the road, a little restaurant, beer joint type place, Kenosha. Pull in there, I talk to the waitress behind the bar, ask her where the closest bus station is. She tells me it's off. Is it in Waukegan? Where I got to go to catch a bus? Waukegan, Indiana, Illinois, maybe? I think. I can't remember. Me and her work out a deal. She's an older gal. She said, my husband's a mechanic. I bet he can fix that car. I said, tell you what, how about I just give you that car? Ain't worth much. You think your husband give me a ride to the bus station? She calls hubby. Hubby's down. He wants that Mercury Lynx. He's going to give me a ride. So I get my stuff out of the Mercury Lynx, my box of my trusty cassettes, and he takes me to the bus station. I buy myself a bus ticket, get me to Texas. And I rode that bus all the way back to Texas through Memphis. You know, it's a long bus ride. By the time I get to By the time I get down there to back to my part of the world, after that bus ride, I'm feeling kind of hopeless. I ain't got a car now, and my job don't start till a month, and I've left all my crap in this apartment and with these other dudes I was roommating with for a little while. And just a bunch of furniture and stuff. By that time, I'd sold most of my crap. My computer had bunked out on me. I'd sold it to a pawn shop. I just didn't have a lot of personal items, just what I had with me. I got out in Houston, hung out with my family again, and saw my old friends, Joey and all that. Realized how much I missed everybody, and that I didn't want to leave that time. I wanted to stay. And my mom probably had something to do with it. I'm sure she rallied hard. She'd help me, like, stay with them, find me another job in Houston. Houston, the great thing about Houston, you can be unemployed anywhere else in the country. You come to Houston and find a job. Houston's always got jobs. Always. Houston right now got jobs. You can always find a job in Houston. Cost of living ain't bad. It's, you know, the payback is you live in a swamp and it's 9,000 degrees most of the year, but there's always jobs. Jobs and cheap food in Houston. There's always jobs, cheap food, and decent rent in Houston. But whatever the rest of the world is, it's cheaper in Houston most of the time. So I decided to stay in Houston. But I was a little fed up with the x-ray business at that point again. And I couldn't go back to work for Longview Inspection. They had listed me as ineligible for rehire because of the situation up in Milwaukee. And I was pissed, and they had, you know, I'd screwed up my name. So I took the first job I got offered, which was selling new cars at Crown Dodge on I-10. I don't even think that's there anymore. So I got me a job selling new cars at the Crown Dodge dealership, and I was excited. I had the gift of gab. I was good at talking to people. I thought selling cars might be a good job for me. And I was good at selling cars, but that was a problem. That's a problem to talk about another day. That's another Fox body Mustang. That's a whole nother story. Yeah, I was good at selling cars. In fact, I was real good at selling used cars. Too good. Too good for my own taste. Didn't like that business. But I have, in some shape or form, since that time period in my life, bought and sold cars. I've flipped a car. I don't know how many cars I've flipped. I don't know how many cars I've bought, turned over to make a little money on. It's always been my go-to, though, when I was in a bind. Didn't make money on all of them, but I made money on a bunch of them. But basically, that whole time period of my life, that whole story when I owned that Dodge truck, the way I can sum it up is this. Here's this. You ever like walking across your own porch and you spit without thinking about it, and then you immediately think, this son 50 right here, spit on my own porch, now I'm the one that's got to clean this mess up. That was that whole year and a half of my life. I was a son 50 that spit on my own porch and was having to clean it up. And those are hard knock lessons I learned. I learned them. Some of you might be young, getting ready to learn them. Some of you might already learn. Some of you might already had your pivotal ass whooping. I think most men at some point in their life catch a pivotal ass whooping that changes the way they think about their abilities and the way they should talk to people and treat people. And that was my first pivotal ass whooping, but the most pivotal ass whooping. And I am one of those people, I don't like bullying and stuff, but I think a pivotal ass whooping is important. I think every once in a while you got to get your clock cleaned out, straighten you out, teach you how to talk to people and treat people. If you hadn't had yours yet, then you must be all right guy, or you're just lucky. If you have had it, you know what I'm talking about. You know how important it is. Gotta get that pivotal ass whooping. That is the one to have. You need that. And I sure, old Charles Luty gave it to me, and then was my friend till the end of his life. He was a good dude. If you can get a pivotal ass whooping and get a friend out of the deal, boy, that's even better. But it's harder for that to happen nowadays. Everything's zero tolerance. They're gonna call the law on you and this and that. But it used to be different. What was that? It's that old saying. Was it Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face? Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. As always, I thank you guys for sharing your Sunday with me. At least part of it. And as always, I'm rooting for you. You know that. You know I got your back. I'm here for you. I like to see y'all do good. Good things are happening to me right now, and I like to cover that energy with a good energy for other people. I want my friends and fans and people to do well. I want Wayners to succeed. I want Wayners to be a movement of succeed, and kindness, goodness. Maybe if you're having a bad day, this is something I do sometimes. Sometimes I'm having a bad day and I'm real worked up about stuff. I try to keep an eye out as I go through my day of somebody else that needs some kindness. Somebody else maybe having a bad day. And I try to do something nice for somebody. You might try that. Works pretty good for me. Even if it's just a dumb thing, just offering to help somebody, smiling at somebody, telling somebody good morning. Hi, how you doing? A smile goes a long way. I give a lot of smiles because I'm a big, scary looking guy. I know not you. A lot of you big old scary looking guys do, but you know what it's like. We have an intimidating look about us. People often assume I'm mean, I'm rough around the edges kind of thing, and they get to know me and find out I'm a pretty nice guy. But I smile a lot to let people know, hey, you ain't got to worry about me. And a smile goes a long way. So maybe if you have a real bad day, try flashing some good smiles to somebody, see if it don't turn your day around. You never lose anything by displaying some kindness. You really don't. And I think it takes a stronger man to be strong and kind than it does to be strong and angry. I think it takes more strength to be strong and kind and gentle with people, knowing you don't have to be. That's one of the things I try to practice these days. So, if you're in the Houston area and you want to come out to spring out Kirkendall Walmart, I'm going to be out there this coming weekend with the Hot Wheels Legends Tour, which I'm psyched about. I'm treating it like an audition because there could be some good opportunities that go along with it. Like I said, we're going to shoot it all. We're going to film it all. But it's a big door for me if I do it right and I hit it with just the right energy. And I'm real excited about it, and I plan on doing my best. I treat all these things like an audition. So if you're out there, boy, I'd love to see you, shake your hand, talk to you. And some of you have sent me some pictures of your cars that you're bringing, and my God, there's some cool stuff. Old boy in Corpus Christi sent me a picture of a truck that I hope I get to see in person. It's a bad machine, baby. I love to see that kind of stuff. So if you're out there, come out and see me. Come say hi. Take a picture. We'll bullshit a little bit. As always, Everyone Racers Podcast, we thank them for the sponsorship. And hope you guys get a chance to go check them out. Like I said, we've got some new sponsors coming on board. We're not starting it just yet, but they are coming on board. We've even been approached about a book publisher and book editor approached us about taking the Wrecking Yard and making a book out of it. So who knows what kind of crazy stuff is coming down the pipeline for old Jerry Wayne, but I sure appreciate my Wayners being out there. Y'all got my back, I got yours. If you happen to be at a rest stop, Gary, Indiana, see old boy laid up under his truck, looks like he's laid there too long, kick the fool, make sure he's alive. Check on the guy. If you find yourself in a McDonald's mad because somebody jumped in front of you in line, they're acting like they got a gun, don't risk it. It ain't worth it. That's one of the dumbest things I've ever done in my life. Go get in your truck, go home. Go to another, there's 10 other McDonald's on your way home. And if somebody else gets you in a fight, boy, you sure make sure you grab a hold of them and keep them in the fight. Because when I got my hands on Jason, I did whoop on Jason a little bit after that. And he had it coming. I woke him right up out of bed. He was asleep in bed. I went in there and punched him right in the ribs, woke him straight up, and we went tussling. Get me in that shit, get my ass whooped. Even though I needed it. Even though I needed it. Boy, I sure needed it. And I ain't gonna lie to you, tell you that's the last ass whooping I took, because I took plenty more after that. Some of them lessons take a little longer to suck in. Next week, I hadn't decided what we're going to do yet, but I think we may go back a little farther. I think we may go back to high school. Talk about the old blue Ford. I keep saying that. I'm just not ready to tackle it. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do next week. There's plenty more cars and plenty more stories, I can tell you that. We can sit out here for the next 3 years before I run out of stories. If you got friends that might be into this, turn them on to it. I appreciate every like. I appreciate every comment. I may not respond to every comment. On an average, I get about 14,000 comments a week on all the platforms. I try to respond to as many as I can. I don't respond to all of them, obviously, because I would just be responding to comments all day and I wouldn't have time to make content or do anything. But I do try to respond, interact as much as I can. I do read them all. I appreciate the things you guys tell me. They stick in my head. They make me think about things. They make doing this job easier. They make me realize I'm on the right path a lot of times. Hope you guys have a great week. I look forward to talking to y'all again next Sunday. Hope you have a nice Sunday evening. And if you're in the Houston area, this might be the best weather we get for a couple months. So you better get on out and enjoy some of it. I might get out there and howl at the moon again tonight after I get this edited and ready to go. I might not. I promise my boy is going to play some Minecraft with him. So I need to find some time to do that this evening after I get done editing. But I might get out there and howl at the moon a little bit tonight, Mama. Get on the back porch, play the music a little too loud. Enjoy myself. Boy, I ain't worth a damn at sharpening a knife. I never have been. I got uncles that can do it. My dad was good at it. I've tried to teach myself all my life. I ain't worth a flip of it. Any of you any good at it? I need to send you all my knives so you can make them sharp. Uncle Terry could sharpen a knife. I have all the sharpening tools. I don't know what I'm doing with them. I mean, I do. I've read the instructions and tried them, but I can get it sort of sharp. But maybe it's just a patience or I don't understand how to see the angle, but I've never been worth a damn at sharpening. I'd like to be better at it. I need to teach myself how to do it. That's something I need to invest some time in learning. I'd like to be the dude who knows how to sharpen a knife, but I ain't yet. But I got Uncle Jerry's kit. At some point, I'm gonna teach myself how to use it worth a damn. He used to make knives. I got some knives he made me that are pretty cool. I'll show them to y'all sometime. God, I think that covers it. All right? We got everything. Let me go through my little outline here. I started doing this more of a free form. I hope you guys are appreciating it. But I found out I kind of have to do this like a comedy set. I used to write it all out, and that gets to be too much because I get too busy trying to read what I wrote out. And I don't like teleprompters and stuff like that. So what I started doing is I write these outlines that guide me through the story. Just to kind of remember my place, remember where I'm going. But that's kind of how I do a comedy set. When I write a comedy set, I might write down mushrooms and Modelo. I know what that means. That's a whole bit. I know what that means. I might write down sober jobs. I know what sober jobs means. That's a whole 5-6 minutes worth of bit. But if I forget where I am in my set and I remember sober jobs, well, I'm on it. So I start doing this like this, and it's to me it feels like it flows a little more freely, and you get a more vulnerable actual story because I'm mining it in my mind as I go through it. Of course, I've already thought about these stories as I was making the outline. Woo, to be 20 years old again. God almighty, the trouble I'd get into with the brain I got now. As always, I love you, and I'm JW. This is the song that nobody knows. Couldn't even describe how it goes.